Welcome back, guys, to the Safe Room. I'm your host, the President Shon Williams. We're back with another episode. It's Friday night, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little tired, but I have to be here. I'm here for you guys, and today we have a very special guest. This person I actually met on Instagram. Like I was scrolling through my feed, minding my own business, and then all of a sudden I saw this person with her art, and I was like, man, this is different. This is different to most of the arts I've kind of engaged or intrigued with. And I reached out to her. Fun fact, like she's not even in Canada. She's in Florida. So when I reached out to her, it was a shock. But I'm so glad to have this wonderful individual, this wonderful woman on the podcast, a guest. Please welcome Ashton to the podcast. Ashton, how are you doing?
Hi. So well. Thanks.
Of course, of course, of course. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast. When we connected, it was just such a good feeling, a good vibe, and everything. And I'm really glad that you're here to, share your art, share your work, what you've been doing, how you got into your passions.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to meet you.
Of course, of course, of course. So, before we get started, Ashley, maybe you can share a little bit about yourself, to the audience members because they may not know you specifically. Like I said, you're from Florida, so like the territories are kind of different and everything. So maybe you can let the audience know who is Ashton.
All right. Wow, that is a loaded question. But so you met me through my Instagram. That is, I call it Wild One Art. It's mostly my nude photos, some things that inspire me. I'm always naked in Florida. It's warm, so it's nice. I'm a photographer, I'm a painter. So that kind of just goes with parts, and I don't even know how, I don't really even have a title. Artist always sounds so great. Like I am not Picasso. Like it's such a very high up there. It's so hard to even say that. But I create art. I appreciate art, and I love nude art. I love women when they are feeling empowered and just bold. Nature. That hasn't answered your question yet.
I mean, it kind of does in a
I'm telling
way.
you what I love. Those are the things I love. So on my Instagram account, I share those things, and you saw them and you felt, I'm so happy to hear you were drawn to it. I love nature, and I believe every single person should be out in nature often and soaking it up. And when I'm out in nature and I'm soaking it up, I feel so alive, and I want to share that aliveness. I don't know, how to explain. There's so many entities to being I'm sure most people are like, oh, she's just a nude model, collects her money, this and that. Like there's so much to it. I am so invigorated when I get to go out and about and explore places and people are taking my photo, or sometimes I'm taking my own photo. Nature is only just a tiny little bit, because even in the studio you can make awesome art. There's so much to create and so many little details. So
Right.
I could hardly say nude in nature is my all-time favorite. Like I can't deny it, but that doesn't mean that I don't love work in the studio, being indoors. I hate, I still don't have a very well-rounded description of what I love, I feel.
I hear you, and I did want to touch upon something. You said that you don't really consider yourself an artist based on the prestige and everything, but I would say you do fall in the artist realm for sure. Like this is I've known people who they kind of question what they're doing is this the right field or the right occupation? And everything that you said right there, that legit falls for you as an artist, whether you're a photographer, videographer, a curator, that all falls in the same piece. I think everyone just kind of looks at artists because it's if it's not a certain standard or a certain echelon of what people need to be, then it's oh yeah, I'm just not that. I'm just gonna downplay myself. But I definitely see you in that realm.
Well, thank you. Cool. I'm happy to present myself somewhat, there.
Of course, of course, of course. So, yeah, Ashton, yeah, we're gonna have a great time, a great conversation. We're gonna get into more of your stuff, everything about it. But before we do that, we're gonna start with our first segment, the hot seat. Trust me, don't get intimidated by the name. It's nothing crazy. All it is, I'm gonna ask you 4 questions, and you're just gonna answer them to your best ability. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, cool, cool, cool. So, outside of your work, Tell me something about yourself in one sentence.
I have been living off my land for almost 5 years. That's one sentence. Literally just one. I, comma. I love it. It's so hard to condense into one sentence.
It's one of those things like you really have to think about yourself. Like, damn, like how can I describe myself in one sentence? But like, no, that's very interesting, you know. And like, I feel like that's a proud achievement as well. So, I mean, good for you.
Thanks.
Of course, of course, of course. Going on to the next question. Your favorite place to travel when it's cold outside?
My all-time favorite place ever to travel is New York City. And even when it is cold, it's still my favorite place, I believe. Oh, I love it. There are so many like subgroups. Every single time I'm there, I meet random people, and usually I meet people in the most random ways, and then they show me their little parts. And I mean, it's huge. Even like the little tiny New York City. I don't know. I guess because I feel like very small there, and you can just get lost there. No matter the season, like every single season, it's so I don't know how to describe like getting lost. That sounds negative, but it's a good thing to get lost there and just like to be.
Like explore.
It's so I love it. I love New York City, and I like cities. Like I like Toronto. I enjoy the big cities because they're huge and there are so many little hubs. But New York City is my like. I always come out of New York City feeling a little like just inspired differently, if that makes sense. Like I love to travel, so there's really nowhere I dislike. I don't really like being cold, but when traveling and you're going to be leaving, it's a different feeling.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you get to like leave out of like whatever city or country you're living, you get a rush. You get a good rush where it's like, okay, I get to go to different destinations, like meet new people and such. It's a good feeling. Like sometimes it's very sad where it's like, okay, I gotta come back to like where I was originally staying, and like maybe some people deal with it differently. For me, if I'm on like a road trip and it's like, all right, let's head back home. Like, I'm just kind of like so depressed. It's just like I don't want to go back. Like, I don't. Like, I've been living in Canada like my entire life, so it's just like when I get to go out, it's just like I want to be out for a long time. And then there may be times where you're like homesick. You're just like, nah, you know what? This was fun, but like I have to get back to the crib now. So
I do feel that. I do feel that. But that like whenever I miss a flight, I feel like I immediately feel homesick. Like, oh, I've got to be home. I need to be home. But when you're like all things are going well and you don't miss your flights, I feel like you always are like, home is there. It's a safe place to be, and it's there. You can rely on it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, well that's good to know. New York City, wow. I would have never expected that answer too. Like most people would be like, oh, like Dubai or like the Caribbean or like I want to go to London. Like so, New York. That's a very interesting answer.
It's always a place I would go to in any season.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, moving on to the third question. An interesting fact that you rarely share about yourself.
This is such a hard one. Talk to so many different circles of people that there are so many different things that I would never share with certain groups. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but across the board, like, I don't usually tell people that I was a stripper dancer when I was younger for a few years. And it's one of my like favorite things ever. Like, I love that job. I would have the job as a stripper if the hours weren't so crazy and they offered Uber for the dancers free. Like, I would go back. It's like my favorite thing. But I've never told, like, I don't talk to people about that. And especially the older I get, like that lifetime is like, further and further away. So many, like the last like 10 years, so many people that I've met, and I've met so many different people, they can't believe it. They like look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I have a stripper pole in my yard. Like I go to the strip club for fun. Why are y'all surprised that isn't my favorite job ever and my favorite thing ever?
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, like, some people when they hear stuff like that, they kind of like there's a perception of just like, oh, like okay, like cool. It's like the conversation or the mood just shifts in a way, and it's kind of like I'm not any different. Like I just like this is just something I wanted to do. So I'm like, was there at a point where you felt like
I
was there a point where you felt like, you know what? Maybe I should. It's like it's not that I'm afraid to tell anyone, but it's just like unless someone really wants to know, I just keep my mouth shut about it.
Yes. No, that like forever. When I was like 25 or 26 years old, I remember just talking to people and like bringing it up. And somebody was like talking about Vegas, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. You're from Vegas." Da da da. Like that was a place. Whenever I was dancing, I always wanted to go to Vegas. Like some of my best friends are dancers, and I could just see their faces. Like I don't like people don't know how to receive it. So it makes me laugh. And so now, like, I think as I get older, I get more like, like my filters are dissolving even more. So I feel like it's going to come up a lot more as I get older because I love making people uncomfortable. It's so interesting. But the last 10, 15 years, it has been like a very, I don't know, like a weird talking point. I have no shame. I guess that's what it is. I think people expect shame, you know?
Mhm. Right, right. Absolutely. But again, it's good to know that you feel comfortable and just kind of like, you know what? I expect that from people and I don't really let that cloud like my judgment or like how I used to like that was the past. Like that's just me and like I just take it with like honor and appreciation. Like, I'm not just going to let people just say like, "Oh, like you do that." Like maybe like don't bring this up when we're talking to other people so that way they don't think that we're kind of oddball and everything. Well, you're just like it's like, hey, like I am the oddball, so like who cares? Like,
Uh-huh. I just don't have any shame. And I feel like when people like it comes up and like people are talking about like their deepest, darkest like things, and they're always things that are very, I hate the term, but just super vanilla. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and perspective is everything. So of course I'm like, good. I'm like, those are things that changed you and helped you. So let me tell you about my life. And I'm always the oddball. I've come to, I guess, accept it.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, final question: what is your personal safe room?
My personal safe room, oh gosh, I mean, nature in general gets me feeling right, and it feels safe and it feels great. But of course, like that's so open ended. Like there's a place on the beach that I go anytime and like to regroup. But a safe room, I'm trying to think like my home has always felt safe, and like my bedroom, like I've always felt very safe in like my little areas. Like where I'm sitting right now is like my little like my safe zone to where I can like decompress.
Right.
I'm thinking I like I don't know what my answer is because like honestly going to the beach, going to the place where I go to the beach is very secluded, and like I can isolate myself, so that is probably the place I would call like my my safe room. Like I go there and I can be alone. I can recenter. It's my place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my answer.
Yeah, no, of course. And like, you mentioned like different, like possible safe rooms, whether it's like, where you're at right now, your home, your beach. Most people it's like I can't even come up with one or like I just have one. So I think for you, your connection with nature, you're able to like have these different, locations that kind of confide as your safe room. I think that's a strong testament. Like, a lot of people they might have struggles of finding that comfortable space where they can feel themselves feel authentic. And for you, I think you have so much. It's just like I can't really give you like one straight answer. So like I think that's great.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. I feel like there sometimes you have to make your own space and make, it's all within. It's all within. So I try to, slightly introspective maybe. So multiple places work when I need to figure out a place to be me safely,
Right.
if that makes any sense.
Of course, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's like the all the questions I have for this segment. So yeah, you gave some great answers, Ashton. Thank you, thank you. moving on to the actual, the main questions we got. This is gonna like dive in a little bit more into the work that you're doing. So the first question I got is, when were you first introduced to photography, and how did this decision change to like, the previous career that you were doing? I know you mentioned before you were like doing dance, strippers and all that stuff. Like how did that become where I was doing that to now like I'm kind of tuning in, to more of art and nature with my photography and the stuff that you're doing?
So when I was like in middle school ish age, my mom got me into modeling, and it was very like we lived around Daytona Beach. It was like it was dime a dozen type deal. So like I got to see it. I remember going to the photographer's house with my mom. My mom was super like wouldn't let me do anything alone, thankfully. And I remember his house was like, and like I said, I think I was in middle school, maybe even elementary school, but middle school feels like that age, whatever age that is. I remember this guy's house was just like nothing was hanging on the wall, but things like there were like photos, like large format. And this was like, late 90s. So whatever printers they were using, everything was all like around. It was very artistic, and it was the most artistic. And I remember being like, "Oh, this feels good." Like this guy, and I don't remember. Like I still have photos, and I couldn't even tell you his name. I wish I remembered his name, but I could just the whole energy of him and the way he like when he was shooting. I was just like, okay, this is like my people, and I had never met anybody so like thinking with their brain like different. It was so different. So that stuck. That stuck very much with me. And then I had a fake ID, so I was like, and I was working for Budweiser. I was shooting with photographers like 17 years old, 18 years old, and they were all creepers, like always trying to do all the creepy things. And it didn't really deter me. It just made me so much like more interested. I'm like, oh man, if this exists, I can only imagine. And so
Mm-hmm.
I never had a bad experience with these weird photographers. And I mean, weirdos, like I met some weirdos. I was always so interested. So it just is really like, it like instigated my like urge to like meet and see all this stuff. So I danced, I met some, I have been modeling like, honestly, I think I've had a model mayhem for like 20 years, which I like probably the first users that ever existed. So I've been like in that world, but I got a job as a reporter out of college, and I got my first camera and really like started just to be in control and to shoot and stuff like that. So that was fun in my 20s. And then I have just the last like 10, 12 years, I've met some awesome photographers that always want to shoot really cool concepts that have really just sparked my creativity so much. So I've had, like all of those types of things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So many people have come along, and there's never like one exact thing. So many little tiny things have led up to it. I'm a photographer now, so I meet people, and I like, can kind of absorb all the different types. I don't know. I'm very easily inspired. Like I don't know if that's not really answering. That's just like a timeline. I have been around so many different interesting characters, and I've just been inspired by them. And sometimes it's to be different than them, or I like am I touching on the answer at all? Like what are your
You are, and like don't worry, because most people like usually answer in the timeline as well. And like you had some like interesting things to say, like the whole reporter. I think that was like really cool. I think that's like something that I didn't know before. Especially when we connected. So that's like a nice little added like element to the story. And you know what? Again, like some people when they connect with different individuals, there may be some bumpy paths and there may be some roads where it's like, yeah, you know what? I kind of got into like connection with some people that were really like right up here, and it's just like it's part of the process. I think it kind of happens in no matter whatever profession you do. So like for me, as like podcasting, I may like run into like other podcasters, and it's just like I hear some of the content that they spend, and it's just like, bro, how am I in the same field with them? It's just like I don't know how that's possible, right? And it's just like again, it happens. But I think what's really interesting again, like how your journey started back in middle school. It's just like, wow. Like for a lot of people, they'll probably tell you like, oh yeah, I started like 4 or 5 years ago. Like for you, it's just like, nah, this was like when I should have just been like in school studying, doing my academics and everything. Like your mother was like bringing you into this thing. So it's like, um, I think again that's a very interesting and like story of how it's being told and just everything how it's kind of leads you up to this point where now it's like I get to like you get to meet new people every single time, have those connections the same way like you were kind of brought into it where you were like being placed with different photographers and building those connections. So it's kind of like a full story, like a full circle arc in a way.
It's been a long time. Like I have been at quote unquote in the modeling industry for a long time. And I honestly feel like in my 30s have been, and maybe because I'm just more aware, but it has been more like not important, but very like like things have been more. I'm not even more malleable, but I just maybe all of my connections now have just become more aligned with what I want. So it's just like my circle has gotten smaller, perhaps, and things are more what I desired as opposed to my 20s but I was open and I wanted to see it all. Like sometimes things are like I like to observe it all. And sometimes I'm like, this isn't probably a good idea, but I would really like to see how it's going to happen. Like I would like to see what's going to happen there. So that's like, I feel like that has been my life in a nutshell.
Right, absolutely. And like your photography. So like, is it like the name of your brand? Is it like Wild One Art? Is there like a specific name for it?
My photography, my website is alrimagery.com.
Okay.
And that's where all my like everything I shoot is through there. And you can find like my blog, but my Instagram, that was just a random. Honestly, I logged back into my Model Mayhem and I have tons of photos on there and I started to go off like, well, I don't want to delete that. So I'm like, I'll just make an Instagram and have like a lot like updated portfolio. And my Instagram has been going up. It's been a year now. I just looked it up. But just in the last few months, and I don't really like, I update every like week, sometimes not. Like I don't update it a lot. I don't do much on there, but it's been going crazy. Like I have been getting, I'm telling you, like 30 to 50 followers a day.
Wow.
I'm getting like, it's yeah, something's happening. So like something, and it was an accident. Like I am just existing over here and putting fun stuff. But also like, I feel like some of my art lately has just been like photos of me. What people are doing with the photos have been so much more entertaining.
Your work is showing. The work is showing.
Something's happening.
And honestly, no, I think that's great, especially how you said like you kind of put all your photos from like your Model Mayhem account to your Instagram. Like that is smart marketing right there too. So it's like you have that mindset as well. It's like instead of just like getting rid of these photos, I'll just put it on my Instagram because what a lot of people are trying to do today is how can they use multiple social media platforms, so like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and like be able to get those like that audience, get a bigger audience, a bigger following, and again, you were able to like capitalize on that and like look at that, like 30 to 50 followers a day. I wish I got numbers like that. Sometimes I might like.
It's so interesting. I don't know how it's working. Like I didn't do anything different. It's weird how the algorithms work though. All it takes is just people liking, it's so weird, but it's all supplemental. It's so helpful for all, like it's helpful, but it's supplemental. Like your content has to already exist.
Right.
Like there's a whole, I mean, I'm no expert. I'm a terrible millennial, but it does seem as if you have to have really good things to back it up, content to back it up across all the boards of social media. It's just interesting because we're like, even 10 years ago, people weren't using social media like this. So it's interesting to me. It's crazy. I'm of the, like, I kind of half wish the internet would crash sometimes just to see what people would do and like how people would exist.
World War III would just start right there. Just like we're fighting everything and everyone who's on site.
It would be interesting is all I'm saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's really great to hear. That's really good to hear. Okay, so moving on to my next question. So, what has been the most challenging aspect of the work that you're doing right now?
I'd say just weeding out the creeper people, like, and it, like, I can't even say like creeper men or creeper photographers. Like, there's just so many different types of weird creeping that can go on. So that's like, it's okay. It's okay that it exists. Like, people, we need, I guess, all types of people. But I can see, and after, like, I know a handful of models that have been around for as long as I have, and they have horror stories. So I can see it being a huge problem. I'm just very lucky, I'm knocking on wood, that I haven't had like bad situations. But I would say that would be the worst part of it all. You put your nudes out, and of course, people are like, oh, why aren't you sending me masturbation videos? Like, what?
Oh
Let me
my.
get, weird stuff like that. Like, there's always, of course, and to be expected. I'm never like shocked, but I'm also like, what gave you the thought that I wanted dick pics? Like, when it's always interesting. So it's barely a problem, but it exists. So I would say that is the, like, most annoying facet of it.
Yeah, okay. So it's definitely like the representation. Like once the content's posted, again, the assumption or perception is just like, oh, like she's trying to get my attention like that. Just like no. And like I will say this, sometimes like we all kind of fall in that boat and we can't really say like, oh, like you shouldn't think like that. It's gonna happen based on how like life and like how history is played out. That is just how it's gonna be. I think it's just we need to choose to be like more like precautious, I guess, more aware that like everyone like nowadays like are starting to express themselves in different manners. So like for you posting like new content, it's not like, oh, like make sure that you call me online and I want to see this and that. It's just like no, it's like I have this love for art and nature, and like I want to tie it in because like I love myself, I love my body, and like that's how I represent it. It's just that because you see something else that's clearly not like what I had as my vision, that's where you're like, oh, like yo, she clearly wants like my dick pic. Like yo, let me send it right now. It's just like, bro, get out the chat right now, get out of my face. I'm blocked immediately. So like, I get it, I get it.
People are people, and I love them. I'm so happy that we aren't all the same. So that's why I can barely complain about it. I try to smile and laugh because we all exist together,
That that that's
thankfully.
good. That's some good energy too. Because I'll admit there could have been some people like that could have just rage out, or maybe there's someone that even supports what you're doing that's gonna like go to your defense, like, oh hell no, like, they said this, like, hold on, I got you, Ashton. Just going off into the comment section, just like you don't even need to do that. Just let them be them. Let
Uh,
them be them.
exactly, exactly.
Okay, I love it. I absolutely love it. So, okay, moving on to the next question. So, you're an individual who's very outspoken, and I think if this episode so far has not defined that, then guys, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, you're very outspoken with your art, especially like with your body, like showing it on a canvas, photo shoot, whatever it looks like. So, was there a time where you felt like there was a level of body shame? And when I say body shame, in terms of like, you know what? I don't feel like people will react that well if I just kind of throw my body on social media. Like, what are people going to say? And if not, how did you find that confidence where it's just like, you know what, whatever I'm going to post for my art, that's just how I'm going to be. And, I'm not really going to let anyone who has like a negative perception around it just kind of put me down. So, like, just go to detail. If there was a moment you kind of had that body shame, or if not, how did you build that confidence for yourself?
I love this. This is a great question. So I always have been like, kept everything very separate. Like, I was a dancer, and like I could have posted all kinds of crazy things when I was 19, and that I got my Facebook around that time. And I never did. I never like posted anything. I was very like, I didn't print things like as a model. Like, there weren't like 10-ish years ago, I met my husband, who he is my husband now. And he's like so proud of me, and he like loves me. We used to go to like events like Biketoberfest events, and he would encourage me to get up and do booty shaking contests and like all these things. And like he was so about it. And I'm like, this is so like it was so different because my parents are super conservative. Like as a kid, you know, my dad was just sweet, always like, don't show your belly, like, you know, cover up. And so that was just like ingrained. I grew up, I was homeschooled. Like I was very sheltered. So I, of course, like, as you could tell from our previous talks, like I was a bit rebellious, if you want to call it that, depending on like, I've been very proud and all the things. So I was like 25-ish years old. My husband started putting, and we weren't even married yet, started putting like all these funny things on social media. And it was like, my girlfriend's good at, and it would just be me like, cause I am super goofy. I'd be like washing the floors and like break into like a booty dance, and like, he would like catch it. And so he started posting these things. And then we're talking 10 years ago. My girlfriend's good at this, or my wife is good at this, is what it melded into. And the way it was received, so many people, and it was because he was posting it, I saw just through social media, I'm like, wow, that's so funny. So many people who I thought would be like, come on, skis, get your, like, pick your wedgie. It was received different. And so I'd say that opened it up and made me feel like, and it sounds so like, it's such a simple thing, but just to like have somebody else sharing things that I would never share, and then to see other people's responses were not what I ever anticipated they would be, has brought, I'm like, well, like now I post the craziest things. Like during Hurricane Ian, we had these major winds. And so I had my husband out there filming me. I had a trench coat on, and I was just like holding my beer, like the wind was blowing, and it was like live on Facebook.
Wow.
And I had but I would never have done that 10 years ago. And it's not because I wasn't proud. It was just because like, I guess I just had like a little, like, I thought people would think differently. And I really have never cared what people think of me, but it's just like my family members, you know, your aunts, your uncles, all those types of like things. When I saw how wrong I was, and that people are actually, for the most part, impressed with people's boldness, it's like ignited a fire in me. So that has helped. It's been like a year, every year I feel like, and especially like as I get older, I'm like, it's different when you're 25, you're supposed to look hot, but now I'm like, I'm almost 36. I can post this implied photo because you guys should see, like, this is
Oh
great.
my gosh,
Like,
that last part got me. It's like when you're 25, you're supposed to look like a snack. You're supposed to look like hot and everything. Like I'm old and it's just like I'm still looking good. So like, what can you say now? That got me.
here I am. I know it sounds terrible, but that's the truth. That's my truth.
No, that's really great, and I love how like you mentioned how like like your husband and like at the time was just like posting stuff, and then like usually based on relationships, some people be like, yo, like why are you doing that? Like you don't need to do that. Just stop, or like delete it. So like there's that connection. So it's like it's obviously you could say that was like it was a perfect match right there. Just like you kind of knew like, yeah, this is someone that was able to kind of push something out of me, that doubt of like, are people really gonna be sure? He's like, man, come on, like, listen, we're gonna post this up. Listen, and if I catch you again, don't even hide it. All right, just do what you need to do. Like, it's like your personal like cameraman. Like, I'm the same with my sister. So my sister, like, she's a dancer. She's super dope, and most of the time she's like, look, I'm just like very reserved. Like, if I'm on stage, like I'll do what I have to do. But like, if you ask me to dance in public or in a like a dance circle, like I'm just taking to the side, and I'm just like, bro, you need to get in there, like let them know that you're about it and everything, because like you are that person, and it's just like I feel like that's what everyone needs once in a while, someone that just shows that love and support for that person, so that way they can like, get out of like that little bubble where it's just like I'm not sure if I'm gonna do this. So like everyone needs someone like that.
Absolutely. That is exactly, we all need one. And I feel like so many people don't have one, because I have been like, I have so many different random people that I've met along my way, and they're like, you have encouraged. And it's like these little things that I'm just like, wear those short shorts, honey, pull your cleavage out, like just little tiny things, but that goes a long way. Like you don't, obviously, like I haven't forgotten these things that have encouraged me. And I know like, everybody needs their own hype person, and it has to be an authentic hype person.
Yes, that is true.
How do we create
That
that?
is true. I think that's a huge point. Authentic too, because there be some hype people that hype, but it's just like their intentions might be a little evil, or just like, all right, like in the back of your head, just like, I don't know why this person's here. Like I should be where they're at. And just like that's the bad energy where it's just like, nah, I need people where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, look, you can hype me up, but also too, if there's like those individuals that can, give me like proper like criticism in a sense where like you're helping me build, like those are like perfect people to surround yourself with, because it's not like you're not just a yes person. Like for everyone listening, we talk about this a lot of time on the podcast. I like to surround myself with people that are not afraid to say, Sean, this shit sucks. Sean, this is not good. Like you need to go back to it, and like you should work on it. Like this is good, but I think you should tweak it. That is the people I want to be around with, because if you're just someone that's like, oh, what do you think about this? It's like, yeah, what about that? Oh yeah, cool. What about this idea? Yeah. And now I'm getting angry because like you're just saying yes. Like you sound like a robot. I don't want to hear anything of that. I want you to be authentic. Let me know. So again, you hit it right on the nail. Having that authentic hype person who's ready to like, be on your side, like for the positive moments, but also give you that proper critique as well. Like that's what everyone needs right now.
I know. You're right.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So okay, that's great to hear. So next question. So, who do you want your art to motivate, and what are some ways that you're reaching out to your audience to amplify that message?
I want everyone to be able to look in the mirror at themselves, to take a selfie of themselves, to print out a photo and be themselves and be happy in their skin. That's what I like. I wish there was a way for me to like send that to people to like exude, because it's the only way. Like so much, there's been, you know, everybody has bad shit in their lives. Like so much shit has happened, and if you let that pull you down, and you never can see yourself and like all of the beauty that is yourself, to me, what is the point of living? And to be like, I just want to show people, I don't try to tell people all the bad things about me or all the things that have happened in my life to where I could be here, but instead, I don't know what that in between is besides looking at yourself in the mirror and be like, you are a badass. Like life is worth living. There is absolutely no point in wasting these moments with negativity. And like, I wish I could, touch somebody when they need it, and just to give them that little bit. Cause I mean, it's all within, it all comes from within ourselves. It's all about our own minds. And I mean, I don't know how to word it, I guess. Besides,
I
like that's
felt
what I
like you
want.
said
I want,
everything perfect. 'Cause, I mean, there is nothing wrong with what you said. I mean, like that, you hit it right on the nail. Again, just being able to feel comfortable in your
okay.
own skin. Like I feel like that's a lot of people they're trying to do right now. Because like everyone, one thing I will say this. Listen, Gen Z, like you guys know how I feel about this like generation, like my critiques. But one thing I will say, I love how everyone is starting to take accountability, like for their self care, their mental health, and like for themselves. Like that's something that I'll say in like previous generations. And Ashton, I'm not even going after your generation. Something it was a little hard to like go for. It's just like it was hard to understand a bit. But I totally agree. Like definitely finding ways in whatever passion, whether it's art, whatever you're doing, or another profession, to feel comfortable, feel authentic, and not worry about the judgments of society. That's such a huge component.
And it's such a thing that you see. I mean, it seems like the younger it gets, younger and younger, these issues within people. And so I'm like, well, then let's implement things younger and younger so that we can have strong foundations. Like I mean, I have many a theory as to why we have fucked up kids, which lead to all the like, there's so many things, and like it's not, I can't control it all. But to me, with our kids being, and I mean, I have so many, I have a son, so I don't have a daughter. I can only imagine how it would feel to have a daughter, but I see that I have some badass moms who they say to their daughters, like, you are you, thankfully. Like, why are you trying to be anything except, we all, like, you go through your phases and that's fine. But every single day you should look at yourself in the mirror and be so thankful that you have what you have, whatever it may be. And it's not a mirror issue. It's just a matter of looking yourself in the eye and being able to be okay with being you.
Right.
That's all we need, right? I mean, like if you can start there, we can move about and fix other issue, but there's no, so that's my whole thing. Cause I never realized, I mean, I've met so many different people, but I never realized how many people were so unhappy with themselves and still letting like things that happened 20 years ago to them that they did, that they felt that they were in control of, and they're letting those things rule their lives now. Like, you got to let it go. And, I mean, not being totally obtuse, but just being, I don't know, going within is everything.
Absolutely. So,
Right?
yeah, no, absolutely. So, just like a quick follow-up question. So I know you mentioned ALR imagery. That's like, your brand and everything. So like, has there been people who've actually engaged and like, they've actually took the time to like, reach out to you or message you and be like, wow, like this is something that like really spoke to me and everything. Like, and just like, say, like give your thanks in terms of just like what you're doing. Like, has there ever been moments so far that you kind of can pinpoint where someone has kind of gone to your brand ALR imagery and just kind of shared their remarks?
Yes, I've had like, and mostly women, like and because I'm a woman, I guess people like, but I've shot throughout the last few years, I've shot with a few different women that were just so, um, I mean, grateful, I guess is the word, but because I was bold, they were able to be bold and it felt so good. And they have vocalized how good they felt. Like I just, two weekends ago, I shot this boudoir session with this girl and she's beautiful. I know her. I've met her many times. Like I've shot her family and stuff, but we were walking back. We were shooting at one of my favorite places in St. Augustine Beach. We were walking back and it was sunrise. So it was empty. It was just beautiful. Like the golden, like, and she was like, girl, you uplift me, like just and going on. I mean, it was like I could have cried if I had to like look away and like hide the tears, because the way she was telling me how she herself felt after me shooting her and our conversations within our shoot. And it just, I mean, that I could never work again and I would remember that. Like it just like, to me, that my job is done. That's what I'm here for. If that answers
Yes,
that.
of course. Like, that's a touching moment right there as well. Like I know for some people, like when they have that moment where someone else who engages like with an artist's content, an entrepreneur's content, it's just like it's so touching to that person where it's like who's doing the work. It's like wow, like it's amazing. Like I know for me, like I've been doing this for like 2.5 years, and like anytime someone comes up to me and saying like, "Hey, yo, bro, like I listened to your podcast and everything." There's actually someone that I graduated with just a couple months ago at York University here in Toronto, and like we haven't talked that much, but we're good friends. It's just like with the pandemic, we were kind of very isolated. We had our own stuff going on, but when we linked up again, it was such a good moment. And he told me like, "Yo, bro, I listened to your episode." I'm like, "Are you serious, man? Like, why? Like,
Oh,
it's like, dude, I'm not even saying like you be the last person to listen, but it's just that like, I told you about it. Yeah, but I just thought like, all right, just I told him like he's not gonna actually listen to it. But he's like, nah, man, I listen to him like every single week. And I'm like, bro, like that's love. That's love.
and it's so touching. It's so affirming. Oh, I love that.
Yes.
That feels
Yes,
good.
absolutely. So yeah, having that, engagement, like, with people who come up to your content, I think that's like really great, and I know that probably gets you going like, yeah, like I want to keep doing this because like where would I be if, people wouldn't reach out and show their gratitude or say like, hey, like, your art changed me or like it put me on the right direction or the right pathway. So
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Well, the Instagram that you found me through, I've had not multiple, I've had a handful of girls that I know. And like when I first started it, I followed like all my girlfriends. I have a handful of girlfriends who are like my support, like I send my nudes to, like they're supportive. And not that everybody is, but I added them on my Instagram and like they don't even like, they are totally not in the industry at all. And a handful of girls have been like, they'll send me nudes of themselves, like they're doing like their own things that they're taking, but they're it's inspiring them to like oh, I have a cool looking tree out in my yard, let me go take my clothes off and do a thing. And to me, that's everything. I'm like, yeah, send me your nudes, girl, because I know how it feels when it's one thing to just be naked outside, but then to be taking photos, it adds a whole other element. Like it warms my heart to know like it's just is amazing to me that that my little it's so funny like I'm like I'm going off to share my nudes, gotta go share my nudes, going to sell my nudes, but and it sounds like it's so whatever, but it's such a like it it is touching people. Like there are women who are actually like would never have thought to do these types of things, and they're doing it, and they feel good,
Hmm.
and that's what we need. If people feel good, they're not apt to, it's just it's just bringing a whole other energy.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's great to hear. So I want to take a quick intermission before we get to like the closing remarks and wrap up this episode. So, I want to ask you. So like, is there any favorite artists right now that you're like that inspire you to do the work that you're doing right now? Anyone that you could think of? I know that's pretty of a like a vague and cliche question, and it might be a little bit difficult. So like, take your time with it. So,
So I love to read and I love to write like that. So I read a lot and I read a lot, and I feel like Instagram, and especially like for I'm sure there's other things, but I read a lot of people's poetry and like very like I'm just brainstorming now truly because I don't know. I love the lady. Her name is Rising Appalachia is a girl band. Do you know who I'm talking about?
that's new to me. So I mean, maybe you could tell me a bit what who they are.
They are it's two sisters, but they've expanded their band to quite a few people. I think they're from like North Carolina. They're not like twangy country, but because I do not like it. So it's a totally different, it's very like almost like Elle King style, but their music, they write all their own music. They're super inspiring. So and they're musicians, band, they play and all that. I love them right now, and I've loved them for a while for that, and like their word. You'll have to take a listen, and then like even to read their lyrics, like just the way they're very like spiritual, kind of Native American, like it's very cool, very cool. I'm obsessed with them, in fact. So I'm super inspired by them. I listen to them while I'm like trying to think who else, because there's so many people I look at like visual artists, but I never like I don't even know their names because I just like I look at Pinterest, and so everybody gets lost. Like I love it because it's nice to have all the inspo. I think I'll leave my answer at Rising Appalachia.
Perfect.
And for, they're like a whole entire entity, like their music, it's just they're amazing.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, like that's great to hear. That's great to hear. Yeah, I know for me, like it's pretty hard because like there's so much people I've like got in contact with, and I just appreciate all they're doing, especially artists. There's this one guy that I actually had on my podcast a couple weeks ago. His name is Cam, but he goes by Monster Boy Inc. on Instagram, and like he does like these phenomenal like pieces, like and like what he uses pencil, ink, and actually like charcoal. So like he actually combines it, and he draws like these like powerful paintings, these pieces and everything. And I met him back at this I think it was I want to say like it was like an art fair, like an art showcase. And when I saw his stuff, I was like, this is like stunning, like really stunning. I'm like, let me see if I can get him on the podcast. And when I reached out to him, he said like, yo, man, I appreciate the love. Like I've never even done a podcast before, so like I don't even know what to expect. So I told him, don't even worry about it. We had a great conversation. And his story is like so interesting. He was first in Lagos, Nigeria, and he moved to Canada because he actually had that passion to do art. At first, he was like in school in Nigeria, and it was like like people were telling me like you need to be an engineer, like when I was going to class and everything. But it's just like I was like just doodling on my desk and stuff. I was just doodling for myself, and like that got me motivated to do art. So he moved to Canada, and like he's doing some amazing stuff. So shout out to Cam right now. Shout out to you, man. Like you're doing some amazing things.
Oh, I've got to follow him. I'm excited to see.
Yeah, of course, like some phenomenal art. But yeah, just to kind of wrap things up, I did want to like talk about some closing remarks. So I know you talked about like your art and everything, but I want really to let people know about like the important conversation on oneness with your body. So having that oneness where like you feel like everything is like complete. You don't have any doubts about how people view you, how people see you in terms of like your body and everything, which I think is really important. So I'm just gonna hit you with a couple of questions very quick, and like we can just go from there. So again, like who do you think actually needs to hear these conversations, especially in terms of like being comfortable with your body, being comfortable, with not, I guess, all the hate, all the negative stigmas that are being thrown at you because of how you are viewed. So like basically, just again, how who you think needs to hear these conversations?
I think the people who need to hear these conversations the most would be people who are feeling like they don't belong, feeling out of place, maybe feeling like they've been shamed for just being them. Anybody who doesn't feel like the people around them are letting them be themselves. People, it's like I think so many people are not sure about who they are because their external environment has made them feel that they were wrong for being themselves, and so they've changed. There's so like there's I only know women. Like, I mean, I don't even know women. I know myself and I know women. So I like, to me, so many women in our late 30s, we are set in our ways. And so many things have influenced us here. So the people who are a little confused and think that they always knew themselves and other people have made them feel that they were wrong for being themselves
Yeah.
of sorts.
No, that's like the perfect like cherry on top right there. Absolutely. So like again, everything that you said, absolutely true. And like you said, most of your audience is to women. So if a man were to probably see your page, they again, there's the presumptions of like how they would view and everything. But like I said, like I'm definitely not one of those people because like I saw it, I was just like, wow, like this is different. Like I said, I've had artists before who shared their stories, and I think for you it was like so different because like you were definitely someone where I didn't need to like have the first conversation or send the first DM to you where it's like she knows exactly what she's about. She doesn't care if you have your bad comments or like your critiques about everything, just like, oh, like why you always naked, like put on a shirt and everything. She's like, I don't give a damn. I don't. Like this is me. Like I'm proud of it. And there's people who feel the same way. They have that same sentiment. So like I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I think that's why, to me, I was like, yeah, I respect it. And I absolutely love it too. And I feel like a lot of people don't see that. And like that's why, it gave me the motivation to reach out to you and have you on the podcast.
I'm so glad you did.
Of course, of course, of course. But I think that's pretty much it. That's all the questions I got. Just want to like wrap things up. I mean, do you have like any special projects coming soon? Anything that you want to announce on here?
Well, tomorrow in North Florida, I have an art show. It's an art walk that we do, and I sell my nudes. It's always an interesting thing. Like if you've seen my Instagram, you've seen a lot of my underwater stuff I have on there, and so I have some things. Um, I have nothing exciting coming up. My birthday is next week, so whoever's listening, you guys should be cheering for 36-year-old women. That's all I got to say about that. No, I'm excited. Like I have tons of ideas in my head and I would like to eventually, so I'm just putting it here. I've never told anybody, and like I'm slowly conjuring, I'm just letting it all fall into place, and it really is falling into place. But I would like to put together a really nice, like a coffee table book, um, art book of sorts. And it would be very, I mean, nature, some wonderful poetry. So I don't have any concrete. I have 100 ideas and 100 notebooks around with the thing. So nothing is like tangible yet, but that's in the works. So perhaps in a year we talk again and I'll actually be like, oh, buy my book, coffee table book, not just mine, like other art, but like something to showcase and display. I love books and I love physical things. And every time I look at Instagram, and mostly Instagram and Pinterest too, I'm like, oh, these people, like they should be published. They should, and like it. So that's that's out there. That's what I would working on.
Okay.
gathering content for.
Right. That sounds good. That sounds good. But Ashton, thank you so much for being on the safe room. This was a fantastic conversation.
Thank you. I so appreciate
Of
you.
course, of course. Where can everyone find you on social media?
So you could find me. My Instagram is all like underscore and all that, but I'll just tell you it is wild underscore one underscore art is my Instagram. And you can find me, and there's a link that you can literally buy prints, all kinds of things. I've started to notice I've been getting a lot of people from like Turkey area buying beach towels of my nudes, which is just like surfing nude, like all these different things. But I've started to see the same photos are being purchased, but you can find that all through the link. Everything is through my Instagram there. It's pretty cut and dry. Even my blog is through there.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, that was 1,000 words for a 5-word answer.
No, listen, you throw the plug in. I tell people all the time when you come on here, let them know where. Like, you need to like bombard them with social media. Like,
Thank you. Okay, good. So you know where to
yes,
find it then.
exactly, perfect. But everyone listening, thank you to listening for the Safe Room podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at the Safe Room Official. Also on Twitter, the Safe Room Pod. I'm almost gonna get back on TikTok. I've kind of been a little inactive because I'm doing some construction on the page. Same for YouTube as well. So I'll be back on those platforms too. But you could also check out my website, www.thesaferoompodcast.com, and make sure that you subscribe to be part of the Safe Room family because we're also dropping newsletters. We're going to be dropping our newsletter very soon. So make sure you guys do that. And as well, I'm going to keep saying it till the wheels fall off. If you guys want to go check out the intro and outro track for this podcast, you can. It's called First Lady by yours truly. It's on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, all streaming platforms. So again, go take a listen and let me know what you guys think.
Thank you, Shon.
Absolutely. Thank you to Ashton. Thank you to everyone listening. We'll see you guys next time.